Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining my webinar, where we will take a look at what's new in Dynamics 365 Sales and Customer Service in 2022 Wave 1 release. First, let's begin with a quick introduction. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrei Chernivets. I am currently working at BE-terna, one of the leading implementators of these apps in the region. I have been involved in Microsoft technology for the past 14 years, but most of the time I've been working with customer engagement products, which we're going to look at today. On the slide, you have my contact info, you have my email, my LinkedIn. Please, if you have any questions or want to follow up regarding the presentation or just have a discussion about the modules that we'll be looking at today, please contact me. I am glad to answer any questions. Okay, let's jump right into the content. Okay, so as most of you probably know, Microsoft has two big releases each year, one in April, usually the second one in October. They are called waves, and we will be looking at the release wave 1 for Dynamics 365 Sales and Customer Service modules. Now, firstly, why are they called waves? Because not all of the functionalities are actually released on the first day, in this case on April the 1st, but they are actually released gradually when they are ready to be pushed into your environment. So, for example, in our region, in the Europe region, updates started to roll out on April 15th. And as you will see later on in the presentation, some functionalities won't be there until July, August, or maybe even September. And then when we hit October, a new batch of releases will be available from Microsoft. So we will have to wait and just test out the functionalities from now all through the summer until October, when we get obviously new list of updates. Now, in each release, Microsoft kind of points out what was on their minds, what were the focus points of this release. And of course, we have a separate list for sales and separate list for customer service. If we take a look at the sales module, in this release, Microsoft says that it has been focusing on integration between Dynamics 365 and Teams and Outlook to improve this collaboration between people. The second point was improvement of forecasting and pipeline intelligence. This basically means that the sales teams will have a better overview of what's in the sales pipeline and easier ways of forecasting the rest of the year, of course. The third point is conversation intelligence. And now, I don't know if you know, but conversation intelligence is a functionality that has been available for some time now in additional license, but now some functionalities are coming to the sales enterprise license, and Microsoft is improving some of the functionalities here as well. The second point is improvement of sales accelerator and process automation. This basically means that Microsoft has been trying to make the experience for salespeople who are using the sales accelerator, who are using all of these guided steps and so on, even better, and to automate as much as possible to make time for salespeople to be focused on what's actually important, which is usually conversations with the customer. The second point is facilitating digital selling. Now, digital selling, again, a lot of functionalities in regards to digital selling has been part of the additional license, but now they are coming to the sales enterprise license in a limited scope, but still Microsoft is working on expanding its digital selling portfolio and enabling as much users as possible to use this kind of functionalities, as we will see later on in the presentation. And last but not least, Microsoft has been working on reporting, basically adding additional standardized reports, and not just adding reports, but making reports that are already there better, more customizable, and easier to interact with. Now, if you take a look at customer service, some points are similar, some are totally different. The first one is similar than with sales, which means that also Microsoft has been working on better integration between Dynamics 365 and Teams. Microsoft has been working on improving knowledge management. Now, there are already a lot of functionalities here, but the focus was on getting the content easier, improving the search, and making the experience better for agents. In regards to omnichannel, Microsoft has been trying to cover additional channels and really make the experience seamless. So when agent is using different channels, using omnichannel, all goes through the same interface, as we will see later on in the slides. There have been improvements with service level agreements. We have some advanced rules, as we will see. Microsoft has also tried to kind of give us the opportunity to build communities with your customers. Basically, this means that you can create some kind of a portal where you have formal and informal knowledge articles, where you have Q&A forum, where you have blogs, and so on. Basically, everything you need to build a community and to get some kind of a feedback from your customers. As already mentioned in the previous points, but still important, there were improvements in the agent experience, which means in the interface that the agents are actually using every day in customer service module, improvements in unified routing to make this even better, and of course, some modifications and improvements from the administrator side, which means easier, better configuration and easier, better overview of what's happening in the customer service module. Okay, now let's check what are the actual functionalities that are part of this release. Now, we won't go into every detail. We won't go into every functionality that is available. I will just point out the ones that I think are, let's say, interesting and beneficial to you. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know or follow up, and I'll be glad to answer if I can, of course. Okay, first let's take a look at some of the new functionalities that apply to sales and customer service module. So basically, general improvements. Now, the first thing that we have here is that we have in-app notifications. Now, you probably heard of this already. This has been in preview from July 2021, but I'm glad to announce that it is actually now available for production, so generally available from April 2022. The best thing about this model-driven in-app notifications is that we can create them without any code. We can use Power Automate, or we can use API to trigger them and just add any content that you want. So basically, you can use these notifications either to notify user about something that has happened inside the Dynamics 365, or maybe just use API and notify them that something happened in an external system. So it's a really powerful way to notify user of some kind of changes, important things, errors, whatever. Why was Microsoft waiting for so long? They said that they were improving the scalability of in-app notifications, basically making it ready for large-scale use in production. Okay, so the next functionality I think is really interesting. Microsoft calls this modern advanced find. What this actually means is that the set of functionalities that we have here will replace the advanced find that we have been using basically in the same form since CRM 2021. Now, as you can see on the screen, if we enable this functionality, we can actually go through our views, we can search through our views, we can actually manage views. So user can hide the views that he or she does not need and thus limit the selection. Then when we want to search something like we did in Advanced Find, we can just open this new interface. We can, as you see on the screen, set the rules in a similar way that we did in the basically in the Advanced Find that was there before. And of course, we can add different columns. We can add data as we like using this new interface. And then we can, of course, save the view as we did. So basically, once we enable this functionality, the old advanced find disappears. You no longer have that filter icon on the top right-hand corner, but you can use this interface to get the same functionality. This was in preview from December 2021 and is now generally available, so you can actually use it on your environments. We go to the next functionality. Microsoft released a new grid control. This basically means that when you are looking at your contacts, opportunities, accounts, basically any list, you will be using this new grid control that was released in this wave. And the best two things about this control are, the first one, you have infinite scrolling, so you no longer have to click next page, next page, next page. You can just scroll to the data that you need. Of course, if you want pages, you still have them there. And the second thing is that we have inline editing of views and subgrids. We had a component for inline editing before, but now this is all included in this basic grid, and it can be used in every view and every subgrid. And of course, we will have to wait a little bit. This should be released in preview in May 2022, but I think it will be an interesting functionality. Now, as we all know, probably most of our meetings that we have are now on Teams, and it was really a pain if you were using Dynamics 365 to organize meetings, and then you had to create a separate meeting to make it a Teams meeting. Now, there is a simple functionality, but really powerful functionality. When you create a new meeting in Dynamics 365, you can just check that it's a Teams meeting, and as you can see on the screen, you get a normal Teams meeting link, and you can actually join the Teams meeting right from Dynamics 365. So you can check your calendar, take a look at your activities, and just with one click, open Teams, and you are in the meeting. And this functionality is available on your environment from April 2022. The next functionality is co-presence in records. Now, for those of you who are using SharePoint or using Word, Excel Online and working on the same file simultaneously, you already know this. So basically on the top right-hand corner, you can see if other people are working on the same document. And now the same functionality will be available in Dynamics 365, which means that you will actually see if another person is looking at the same account or opportunity or case. And you can actually click this person, as you see on the screenshot, and you can send an email to this person or open a Microsoft Teams chat right within Dynamics 365 and just start chatting about the opportunity or case or whatever you are looking at together. This feature will be available in September 2021 and will be available on account, case, opportunity, and contact tables. Now, among other interesting functionalities that are related to both modules is, for example, that this read-only grid control that I was talking about before and has been available for some time now will be the default grid. So basically, if you're using stock Sales app, you will see this new grid as you see on the screenshot, and this will be in effect from April 2022. Then we got rich text on appointments. I think that's actually also a big functionality. So if you have an appointment, if you have a meeting in Dynamics 365, usually you want to take some notes, usually you want to create some kind of a report. Before we were limited to normal text, now you can actually have rich text, you can have reports that are structurally nicer, you can add images and so on. So it really improves this functionality. Then the next functionality is a change to the new activity dropdown. Now, I had actually a lot of comments in the past couple of years from clients where they wanted to filter out these activities because you can have a lot of activities, but you only need a couple of them in a certain app. Now, these activities will be filtered automatically if this functionality is enabled on your system, which means that, for example, if I create an app and I add only phone call, email, and appointment activities to this app, only those three will be visible when I click the new activity. And of course, the selection will be easier and less confusing for the end user. Okay, now let's take a look at what's new in the Dynamics 365 Sales module. Now, the first functionality is basically covering multiple conversations channels, and what Microsoft intended here is, as they call it, capture every interaction with the customer to provide a real-time business insights on top of any conversation. What this means is that users will be able to use conversation intelligence. That's the functionality that I mentioned before. That's the functionality that actually is tracking, let's say, your call, creating transcripts, trying to figure out sentiments, trying to figure out key points in the conversation, as you see on the screen, trying to predict and suggest some kind of next best action, some kind of activities. For example, if you were talking about scheduling a meeting in the conversation, this will come up as an activity. All of this is now available through pretty much any conversation channel available there. Now, if you go through them, of course, the first thing is Teams calling. If you make a Teams call, conversation intelligence will track this and you will get suggestions in real time and also analysis, the one that you see on the screen after the call. Now, of course, if you have a Teams meeting and are using video conversation, the same thing applies. So you get all of this data. What is interesting is that Microsoft is enabling this for third-party integration also. Now, usually companies are already using some kind of telephony providers, and now using these APIs, we can integrate the systems and they can actually get both real-time and post-call analytics using calls on their third-party telephony providers. Now, some customers are using Azure Communication Services. Of course, everything is available there also. And not mentioned on this slide, but if we have an integration between other modules, like I mentioned before, for example, between Dynamics 365, Sales or Customer Service and Teams, all of this is available if you are using this functionality for calling for Teams meeting from the modules directly also. So basically, we have all of the main points covered to always get the analytics and the suggestions that we need. This functionality should be in preview in May 2022 and generally available in August 2022. Now, the next functionality, basically it's not functionality, but it's a set of functionalities. It's kind of a direction that Microsoft is going, is to get the right insight at the right time at the right place. This means that all of the tools that are listed here will enable salespeople to get all of the relevant information regarding the communication with the customers that they need. Now, if you go through the points, the first one is that they have relevant and valuable tools for insights. So we have this up next widget, we have suggestions in the Sales Accelerator and everything that is included in the conversation intelligence that is available to sales people. We have in-app notification and emails. We'll see a little bit later on what Microsoft has added. We have additional dashboards that will give us a better overview of what sales personnel is actually doing, where is it losing time, how much the opportunities are we actually closing, etc. We have different functionalities to improve comments, mentions, and sharing, and the search and filtering through all of this info regarding conversation has been improved in these functionalities. Now, all of this should be in preview in May 2022 and generally available in September 2022. So if you go on to a little bit more specific functionalities, the first functionality, for example, is monitoring opportunities and how stagnated deals are impacting the predictive score. You probably already heard of opportunity score. That's the widget that you can get if you have the sales insights, and now with this change, if you have sales enterprise license, you get this kind of a score, you get all of these suggestions, what is good, what is not good in regards to the specific opportunity. And now if you look at the screenshot, we actually have notifications such as 90% of one opportunity spent less than 34 days at this stage, which means that the data, how long are we in a certain stage, is also counted towards this opportunity score. And we can see the historic values, how the score has changed, and etc. Now, if we take a look at how this actually looks, we can open, for example, if you see here on the screenshot or on the video, we can open a certain opportunity, we see the opportunity score, we can check the details, we can check the historic data, and everything we need is right here. And this opportunity should be available this month, so from April 2022. The second functionality is still in the, of course, sales environment, in the sales accelerator. Now you probably know what are sequences, what are these steps that salespeople are following if you're using the sales accelerator. What Microsoft is doing with this functionality, it's updating or improving the experience of how are we managing the activities that are in these sequences. So for example, we can automatically update the description of some activity. Here in our example, we try to close an email, and we can add some kind of a note or comment directly from this pop-up that we get without opening the activity and adding a note or something like that. We can also add a note to a specific activity right from this screen. I don't know if you can see on the screenshot, but the last option says add a note. Before this functionality, we only had the first three options. So user can just click the three dots, add a note, and add some kind of a comment to activity that makes sense. We can also open details of the activity directly from the Up Next widget. And Microsoft also enhanced the timeline control in Sales Insight form to easily correlate the activity, which means that the timeline that you have here, the experience of the user, how you can connect the activity with this, is much better than it was before. Okay, if we move on, this is also an interesting functionality. Now, if we are using these sequences and these activities, we can actually create activities such as appointments for salespeople automatically, and we can automatically schedule them, right? And there has always been an issue that an activity can be scheduled in a time where this specific person is unavailable. Now Microsoft is solving this because they are offering integration between Dynamics and Outlook Calendar for this functionality. If you see on the screen, when we are enabling this seller availability, we no longer have just CRM Calendar as an option, we have Outlook as an option, which means that when these activities will be scheduled for a specific person, every meeting that is in his Outlook or her Outlook calendar will also be counted towards the availability. And using this functionality, we can avoid, of course, double booking. And this can be used in sequences, and this can also be used in process automation. Now, this is also available right from the start, from the April 2022. Okay, now we have a couple of basically two functionalities that are related to a better quality of our data. The first functionality is aimed to improve seller productivity with better quality leads. This is called Data Hygiene. What we actually get, we get this new section, as you can see on the screenshot, where we have duplicate detection. Now, if you were using Dynamics 365 in the past, you know that we have duplicate detection rules now for a number of years available. What the normal duplication rules do, you actually just configure some specific rules like check if the name is the same, check if the email or phone number is the same, and if it is, notify the user or merge some kind of records. But it has to be specific, it has to match the rule exactly. What Microsoft is doing here is actually using an AI engine which means that Microsoft is checking for similarities. And currently, if we enable this functionality, we have 4 rules. Microsoft is checking for the same email, same phone number, a similar name or company name or similar name, and the same email domain, which means we have a combination of rules, and Microsoft is checking for similarity. So I presume that the detection will be much better using this case than using normal duplication rules. Now, this functionality is in preview from February 2022, but should be generally available in May 2022. And now we have the second part of this functionality, which is basically high quality leads that ensure higher success rates. What this means, well, it's not about the duplication, it's about clearing the data. So when you are entering leads or leads are entering the system, if I quote Microsoft, our AI-based models will filter out the junk data like leads with incorrect email addresses, no contact information, or substandard quality data. Now, I have no idea how Microsoft will find the substandard quality data, but other than that, I think this is a really good functionality to just get rid of spam, as we usually call it, and focus on the leads that actually have some potential. I've been mentioning some kind of in-app notifications and stuff like that before, but of course, if we want to have some useful data in notifications, we need the correct triggers. Now, of course, we can, as I mentioned, create our own notifications, our own triggers using API or Power Automate, but in this release, Microsoft will actually provide some useful triggers that will be useful to notifying salespeople of relevant changes. Now, all of these notifications that we see here are actually related to the email. And what Microsoft will provide is a notification for failed automated email or workflow. So for example, if we are using these sales sequences and we are sending emails automatically and something goes wrong, we will be notified and we can check and resolve the issue. We will also know when the customer responds to an email, if the email has been opened, read, or forwarded, if the customer has downloaded an attachment. So for example, if we send an email with an offer, of course, we are eager to see what the reaction will be, and we want to know if the customer actually downloaded the attachment in the email or selected a link in the email, or we will even be notified if the customer updated the phone number in his email signature or updated contact information, which is, of course, really nice feature because we can update the contact in the Dynamics 365. Okay, now we have a couple of functionalities that are related to Microsoft Teams. Now, you probably already noticed that in past couple of releases, Microsoft has really been trying to integrate Dynamics 365 with Teams. And it's not just Dynamics 365 sales and customer service module. A lot of products have been integrated with Teams because Microsoft is kind of trying to make the Teams kind of an app, an environment that users can use to get most of the work done there, right? So in regards to this, we can actually now select a record and send a quick summary into a Microsoft Teams chat or channel with an interactive card, which means that the user on the other side won't have to open Dynamics, won't have to check the record in another application, but will get the summary, will get the most important data regarding, let's say, opportunity. If we send an opportunity right there in the Teams chat, and of course, do something with it. So what is really nice is that the user that will get this interactive card will actually be able to edit this data right there in line in Microsoft Teams chat. So this is the third point, edit records through interactive cards. He will actually be able to add an activity or a note to a record, which means that if you, for example, send an opportunity and say, hey, please check this out, is the revenue okay, is everything okay, you can instantly get a feedback that is actually attached to the record as a note or as an activity. Of course, the person reviewing it can actually change some change some data on there. And of course, everything will be still done through proper security permissions. So you cannot just share confidential data to whomever on Teams channel. This will be restricted. Now, I'm not sure right now what's the situation with licenses. What licenses will the person on the other side actually need to have to check this data? But we will see as this will be released, and it should be available in August 2022. The second functionality, as I mentioned, is also related to Teams meetings. Now, most of the meetings, as I mentioned, are Teams, and it's really beneficial if you are a salesperson and you have a Teams meeting, which is usually related to some kind of a account contact or an opportunity, that this meeting is actually connected to this record. Now, if you have, for example, a meeting connected to an opportunity, before the meeting, users can actually access and update records that are related to this meeting. So we can review the opportunity, we can add some notes, we can change some stuff. We can also do this during the Teams meeting. So we can actually add, let's say, for example, some activities on the spot so we don't forget. And of course, everything is also available after the Teams meeting. And all this can be done through Dynamics 365 tab that will be available in the Teams meeting. And it's similar to the Dynamics 365 tab and functionality that we can already add in the Teams. This functionality should be available in September 2022. Now, this functionality is basically similar to sharing these cards that I mentioned before in Teams chat, but in my opinion, it's even better because you don't need some kind of special functionality. You don't need to share records from Dynamics in a certain way. You can just copy paste the URL of a specific record and just paste it into the Teams chat or paste it in Outlook, and you will get this preview and editing and everything right in line. So it's that simple. So for example, if we will copy the URL of the opportunity and paste it in an email, and this only state that works currently in Outlook Web Access, you will actually get an embedded preview of this opportunity, and the user who will get the email will actually get the preview and will be able to update this Dynamics 365 record right from the Outlook Web Access, which I think is awesome. And the same thing goes if we take the URL and paste it in some kind of a Teams chat. User on the other side will get the preview and will actually be able to interact with the content, which means update Dynamics 365 record. Again, I'm not sure about the licensing. If you are sending this link through email, what kind of licenses does the user need on the other side? We will see when this will be released, but nonetheless, I think this will be really useful if it will work properly. This functionality will come as a preview in July 2022. Okay, so if you take a look at some other interesting functionalities that are worth mentioning, the first one is that the Sales Hub is now pre-installed on all environments, which means that if you weren't using the Sales Hub before, if you didn't have the stock Sales Hub in your environment, it was pre-installed now in April, and you should be able to see it and use it if you take a look at your app selector. And of course, as I mentioned, this is already available from April 2022. Now, the second functionality is related to reporting. As we were talking about at the beginning, we got an improved reporting regarding sales. Now, there's not much data on the report that you see here on the video, but you actually get a nice deep dive on the behavior of your sales personnel. So you can actually see what is the lead conversion rate, what is the sequence status, sequence steps. You get your email engagement, so you see when emails were opened and stuff like that. So basically, the focus of Microsoft is to prepare these standardized reports that you can really use to get detailed data. And as you might have noticed, everything is built on Power BI. This functionality or this report should be available from June 2022. Now, the third thing is that Sales Accelerator will be enabled for all users by default. As I mentioned before, you needed an additional license before to use all these functionalities. Now, some of this functionality is included in sales license, and admins no longer have to enable it. It's enabled for all users, but of course, administrators will be able to disable it for some or all users if necessary, or if you do not want to use this view, as you can see on the screenshot here. And this is already available, so available from April 2022. Now, the next functionality, I don't have a preview for the next functionality, but Microsoft states that you will be able to get recommendations while engaging with your customers, which basically means that on the interface that salespeople are using, you will get some kind of suggestions what is the best next step or the best next action. And this will be available in May 2022. And the next option, salespeople will actually be able to choose the right engagement plan for their customers, meaning that if you are using this interface that you are seeing on the screenshot, and if you're using these sequences and steps, you can actually decide on the spot if you have different engagements, different plans, what is the best engagement for a specific customer, because some sales personnel knows the best what is the right approach, and they will be able to just switch the engagement plan and follow a different path. And this will be available in June 2022. Okay, now moving on to Dynamics 365 customer service, and let's see what updates do we have here. The first one is forecasting of cases and conversation volumes. Now, all of you who are using or working in customer service know that it is really important to handle all of the requests quickly, and you need to have enough people to do that. You need to have enough resources. Now, the point of this forecast, this report, is that Dynamics will actually try to figure out and forecast upcoming case and conversation volumes based on the historical traffic that you have in the system. You will be able to visualize this forecast volumes on daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and of course go into the details by channel, by queue, and so on. What I think is really fascinating is that the forecast will actually be able to detect seasonality from historical traffic, meaning that if you have some special events and special, I don't know, marketing campaigns or whatever in some parts of the year, and you have a significant amount of requests or tickets in that part, this will be as part of the forecast. It will show up as a peak, so you will be able to plan your resources accordingly. I didn't get the preview in time to test this, but it should be in preview this month, so from April 2022. The second functionality is released as part of the customer service module, but it can actually be used in all of the modules, is this out-of-the-box reports from Power BI that can actually be rearranged or modified. So if you saw, we can just select some data and we can just select, visualize this in Power BI. It takes a couple of seconds for the report to actually load, but we get a fully working Power BI report, as you can see on this video, and we can actually change the elements. For example, select a chart here and just change the visualization. We can review, add or remove some data that we have here that is currently available. We can play around with filters. So basically it's a similar experience as if you would actually be using Power BI without actually integrating the Power BI and getting the data from, let's say, all tickets or cases or opportunities view or something like that right on the spot. Which I think is a really nice functionality because we can actually generate ad hoc reports, detailed reports right within the Dynamics 365 interface. And this functionality is already available from April 2022, but it needs to be enabled on a specific environment, basically for a specific app to work. So you can ask your administrators to do that. The next functionality is inbox enhancements to help improve agent productivity. So agents which are using customer service workspace, and as you can see on the screenshot, have their inbox and they have their conversations there. And now Microsoft is adding support for email as a conversation channel. So basically they will just be able to select conversations, see the emails, see the conversation there, and just pick and assign some kind of an email. And Microsoft is also enabling a real-time translation of conversations in the inbox. This should be available already. Haven't had the chance to test it in detail, but it should be available from April 2022. Now we have scheduling and IoT capabilities in customer service workspace. Now these functionalities are not new. If you take a look at the screenshot, we have customer service hub, where you have your resources, facilities, scheduling, and so on. What Microsoft is doing is actually enabling access to these functionalities, not only in customer service hub, but also in customer service workspace. That was the interface that you saw on the previous slide. So users can use all of these functionalities right there in the agent interface. And this is also available from April 2022. Then Microsoft is improving how email templates are used. One side is how they are used when you are actually trying to compose an email and use some kind of a template. Now you already know that you can insert a template, you can select a template, but now we will get this new functionality, a new template gallery that has multiple views, that have search capabilities based on title, subject, description, and content. So you can have a number of templates and just quickly go through them, quickly find the correct template and just choose it and quickly send an email to the customer. I don't have a preview yet, but this should be available in April 2022, meaning by the end of this month. And then, of course, not only do we need to use templates, but we also need to create great templates, and Microsoft is working on that also. So you can expect a new email template creation experience where we will supposed to have an option to get an advanced digital content designer that has different layouts and so on, that can create emails that can adapt to different screen sizes. We'll see how this looks. We should get a preview in May 2022, and it should be generally available in July 2022. Then again, we have a bit of reporting now for customer service. We have, as you see, a Power BI report that's already embedded that is meant to analyze your knowledge articles. And we should get a detailed report of the number of views, visitors, feedback rating, links to cases, shares. So you really know which articles are good, which need to be modified, or which can actually be removed. And this is or should be available from April 2022. Then we have contextual collaboration using embedded Microsoft Teams. Basically, this is the pretty much same functionality that we were talking about in the sales module. So you can chat with contacts directly from Dynamics 365. You can link chats, you can view presence, you can view avatars, and so on. What is interesting is that you have an AI-driven suggestion of agents who resolve similar cases. This is something that we do not have in sales. And of course, you can access key customer service contacts such as supervisors, queue members, and support experts, which we also obviously do not have in the sales module. And this should be available from June 2022. And related to this functionality, we have an AI suggested context for team-based collaboration. I mentioned it before. This is really interesting. So basically, Dynamics 365 will try to suggest contexts who resolve similar cases based on context of the active case, based on the conversation, and additional parameters such as how recent the cases were resolved, time to resolution, and similar things. So basically, Dynamics 365 will try to suggest who is the right person to contact and ask something, ask for suggestion, ask for advice to close the case more efficiently and quickly. And you will also get direct links for agents to similar cases, and you will get a detailed explanation of the key factors behind why a contact is suggested, so you can actually decide if this makes sense or not, or to contact this person or not. This should come as a preview this month in April 2022 and will be generally available in June 2022. Now, if you take a look at other interesting functionalities in customer service module, the first one is that Microsoft will enable us to have a custom time calculation for SLAs or service level agreements. This should be available in April 2022. I don't actually know how this will look. I didn't get this functionality yet on my environment, but Microsoft says that customers will be able to customize the calculation of the warning time and the failure time of the SLAs, and this will help us address specific business needs to determine and use particular customer service calendar. So yeah, we'll see how customizable it will be, but it should be an improvement in regards to what we can do. The second interesting functionality is usability enhancements, also in service level agreements in SLAs. It's a minor but interesting thing. Currently, when you have SLAs, if you're using them, you know you have a succeeded and expired display of text. Now you can actually customize this and change this text so it's easily understandable for your end users. So for example, you can change succeeded to met or expired to missed or something like that. Okay, so this is what I had in mind for today. I hope that you found some functionalities that you can actually or will actually be able to use in your production environments. I think that there are some relevant changes that you can make use of. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions later on, please feel free to contact me and I will gladly follow up. Okay, let me just check if we have some questions currently. Okay. Are the solutions with general availability April 2002 already available? Well, the answer is yes and no. As I mentioned before, not all functionalities are available on the same day, on the same date. Microsoft just states April 2022. So as you saw from the slides, basically some functionalities were already available. You saw the videos, I was able to test them. Some functionalities were not yet available in my region, in my environment, but basically it means that will be available somewhere till the end of the month. So in a week, you should get all of the functionalities that were marked as April 2022. Just keep in mind that some of the functionalities need to be enabled in settings by your administrator, like BI reports or modern advanced find and stuff like that. So you won't see them immediately. You need to ask around and ask someone to enable them if you're not, of course, the administrator of the environment. Yeah, another question, can I share the slides with you? Yeah, of course, we will follow up on this meeting and you will get these slides from the presentation. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Okay, so again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. I hope it was useful, and I will see you the next time Microsoft releases something new. So basically in September, October, something around that time. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.